Coming into the 2017 NBA draft, there was a lot of hype for 7-foot center Mo Bamba. He was a top-ranked player in high school. He went to Texas, where he became one of the most feared defenders in the country with his 7'10" wingspan. And there was a song about him sweeping the nation, which definitely helped his popularity. He was a very raw prospect, there was no denying that, but with his freak of nature frame, he ended up becoming the 6th overall pick in the draft, and there were pretty high expectations for what he was going to do at the NBA level. In his rookie season, the role wasn't really there for him. He played in 47 games, where he averaged 16 minutes, 6 points, and 5 rebounds, shooting 48% from the field. You would think with a prospect like this, there would be more opportunity available in his second season, but that just wasn't the case. His role would actually go down, and he averaged just 5 points and 5 rebounds, now shooting 46% from the field. While everyone would love to see Bamba have a bigger opportunity, he really hasn't proven himself worthy. He came into this draft being praised for his defense, and while no one really has concerns about his ability to block shots, to start his career, he's really struggled in other aspects of the game on that end of the court. It hasn't been what we hoped in the pick and roll and as a help defender for Bamba. In today's league, we ask a lot of big men on the defensive end, so with him not giving enough on the offensive side to make up for his flaws, it's really not that much of a surprise he's seeing his role fade away. So far this season, he's played just a total of 35 minutes. Yes, he missed some time due to COVID, but even once cleared, there were several games where he didn't even touch the court. It's sad to say this about a guy that I really believed in, but it just might be time for us to give up on Bamba reaching his potential. Now, a player could still be really good, but that doesn't mean they're going to reach the potential they had when they went into the draft. I think a good example would be Deandre Ayton. Ayton was looked at as a can't-miss prospect going into the 2018 NBA draft, so much so that he went number 1 overall to the Phoenix Suns, ahead of the likes of Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Jaren Jackson Jr., Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Colin Sexton. You get the point. He had an NBA-ready 7'1" frame. He dominated in his freshman season at Arizona, averaging 20 points and 12 rebounds. People were excited about the possibility of him developing into a modern big. He had sprinkled in some floor spacing, shooting 34% from 3 on around 1 attempt a game. He was starting to get compared to the likes of Joel Embiid. As a rookie, it was pretty solid. He averaged around 16 points and 10 rebounds. Really not much to complain about there since he was just a rookie. But that didn't stop people from already questioning the Suns' decision to take him at number 1. But that was mainly due to the historic rookie season Luka Doncic was having. Now, in his second season, he would end up getting busted for performance enhancers, but still played around 40 games, averaging 18 and 12. So improvement from the season prior. We also started to see him grow as a defender. Now, so far this year, the trajectory his scoring stats were going have switched course. He's now averaging 14 points and 12 rebounds a game. Now, he's a very solid big man in this league. No one is denying that. He is great for this Suns team, but that's not what I'm talking about here. The question is, based on what we know right now, is it time to stop believing he's going to hit that potential that we set when he was the number 1 overall pick? For me, that's a yes. I think he could be that 18 and 11 guy, but I struggle seeing him do more than that. We haven't seen much growth on the offensive side. I mean, his game is really limited to within 10 feet of the basket. From 16 feet to the 3-point line, basically the mid-range, that makes up just 6% of his attempts. But the more concerning part is that he shoots just 27% there. His 3-point attempts make up a pretty similar percentage, and there, he shoots 22%. Now, there's a lot of things to like about Ayton. He brings a lot of value to this team on both ends. On the offensive side, he's a great screener, which is helpful when you have Chris Paul and Devin Booker in your backcourt. His efficiency at the rim forces the defense to collapse a lot of the time in those pick-and-roll settings, creating open looks for guys like Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson. On the defensive end right now, his role is to protect the paint, but while his footwork is improving, he's got a ways to go when it comes to his versatility. But with all that said, I think it's time to start giving up on him reaching that crazy, the next Joel Embiid potential we set for him. Maybe I'm wrong, he is still really young, but I think it's a pretty objective statement based on what we know right now. Kyle Kuzma is going to make this list, but he's a little different than the rest. Both Ayton and Bamba, they were given the high praise, high expectations before the draft. With Kyle Kuzma, that wasn't the case, but I'm going to give him the exception with how fast our opinions on him changed. In the summer of 2017, everyone was talking about the Lakers. The big storyline was them drafting Lonzo Ball, but the hype for this team's young core would go crazy with the breakout of Kyle Kuzma, the 6'10" power forward who was an unknown for most before the draft. A lot of mocks had him as a second-round pick. He'd become a household name overnight with what he did in the NBA Summer League. He would lead the Lakers to a Summer League title, averaging 22 points and 6 rebounds, shooting an insane over 50% from 3. His performance was a huge shocker and flat out unpredictable considering he was a low volume 30% 3-point shooter in his 3 college seasons. Once the year started, we knew it wasn't a fluke. In the first 2 months of the season, he would average 17 points, shooting 50% from the field and 38% from 3. At this point, there was a lot of people starting to look at him as a future star. I know that's crazy to think about, but at the time, this was definitely the case. I mean, there was no reason not to be a believer. His potential appeared to be through the roof at the time. His efficiency would slip a little as the season would go on, but his averages and splits were still pretty similar to those first 2 months. Now, there were some questions about his defense, but everyone was just really focused on what he was going to be able to do as a scorer. In his second season, he would go up to 19 points a game, but his shooting would really start to slip, shooting just 30% from 3 on the year. This is where people started to get more concerned, and his ability on defense came up a lot more. Last year, he was one of the few that remained from the Anthony Davis deal. He would take on a 6-man role where his averages and efficiency would continue to slip. He would average just 13 points on this season, and this year, that's down to 10. He's shooting the ball better than ever, which is great, especially playing on a team that needs that from guys like him, but the hopes of him one day being that high-volume scorer should be gone. He can bring a team a spark off the bench and hopefully some good floor spacing going forward, but with his efficiency struggles when his volumes increased and really not making an impact at all on the defensive end, I think we have a pretty good idea of the player Kuzma is and will be. Ben Simmons has been a hot topic lately, whether that's people claiming he hasn't gotten better since he was a rookie, some even claiming that he's getting worse, or people talking about the possibility of him getting traded from Philly. Coming into the 2016 NBA draft, Ben Simmons was one of the most hyped up prospects we've ever seen. People had been awaiting his arrival to the NBA long before he even touched the college court. He was a 6'10" point forward, being compared to the likes of Magic Johnson and LeBron James. The bright outlook of his future would only strengthen when he finally took the court in 2017. He would actually end up switching to the point guard position, where he would average 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists a game. He would cap his regular season off by leading his team to an undefeated record in the last 14 games, averaging a 15-point triple-double. At this point, his potential appeared to be endless, a point guard of this size who was an elite defender and playmaker. He had a pretty limited skill set, scoring the basketball, but that just made everyone excited about his upside. Since then, Ben Simmons really hasn't changed much as a player. He's grown into one of the best defenders in the league, but for the most part, he's been the same player. This season so far, his averages have gone down to 13 points on career low efficiency. If you were to go back to his rookie season and tell people this, they would be shocked. Most knew there was a chance that he would never learn to shoot the ball, but I think everyone expected him to ramp up his volume even without being able to do that, similar to what we've seen from Giannis. Ben Simmons is different than any other player in this video. That should be pretty obvious. He is a great player, that's a fact, but it's really starting to look like he's not going to reach that crazy potential that he once had. Those were the main ones I felt like highlighting, but there's quite a lot more that I've given up on reaching their potential. Kevin Knox was an exciting prospect coming into the draft, but then after really impressing in the NBA Summer League, his stock went through the roof, and he was looked at as a top candidate for Rookie of the Year. 3 years later, and that ability to create his own shot that we saw in the Summer League just hasn't been there. He's averaging 6 points, shooting 39% from the field. Then you've got Malik Monk. Coming into that same draft, it was pretty clear he had one of the biggest ceilings in the class. He was an extremely gifted athlete and a natural-born scorer. There was a lot of concerns about Malik Monk, but scoring just wasn't one of them. Now in his 4th season, it's hard to have any confidence in him going forward. He's averaged less than 40% from the field so far in his career, and this season, he doesn't really even have a role. And when he's on the court, he's averaging 4 points a game. Marvin Bagley, like Deandre Ayton, has been pretty solid, but between struggling to stay on the court due to injury and not many signs of improvement, I'm starting to lose hope for the once #1 ranked high school prospect and 2nd overall pick in the draft, 1 spot ahead Luka Doncic. Lonzo Ball's a player that everyone has their opinions about. While I think he's going to be a very solid point guard going forward, with what he brings as a playmaker and a defender, the scoring will just never be what we thought when he was the 2nd overall pick in the draft. I mean, we need to remember, he averaged 55% from the field with over half of his attempts coming from the 3-point line.